video, I'd like to give you a heads up about current issues and future direction of language assessment. In particular, 5 aspects of language testing and assessment will be discussed, namely task and performance-based assessment, alternative assessment, technology in language assessment, cognitive aspects of language assessment, and finally, criteria for evaluating language quality. First, let's start with task and performance-based assessment. The development of appropriate tasks for use in performance assessment must be supported by an understanding of how the tasks relate to the construct and of which factors may potentially interfere with their validity and reliability. There is currently only a relatively limited amount of empirical research which systematically examines the type of tasks used in task and performance-based assessment, and which can clarify how different tasks work for assessment purposes. The complex nature of tasks and their relationship to real-world performances makes it important that we understand more about how the various different elements of the task interact, because it impacts on candidate performance with the task. Performance on integrated tasks, for example, requires candidates to engage skills and strategies that may extend beyond language proficiency in ways that can be difficult to define and measure for testing purposes. As do class 1997 and Lee 2006 have noted, test taker performances on integrated tasks involve not only productive skills, but also comprehension skills, and the ways in which these dimensions of language ability are integrated by test takers into their language performances remain, but predominantly perceived by test developers. Furthermore, while it is well known that stimulus material impacts on test performance, the way in which test takers make use of these materials in their responses, particularly the strategies involved in summarizing and incorporating content from written and oral text into speaking performances, is not well understood and requires further empirical investigation. Testing is a socially situated activity, although the social aspects of testing have been relatively underexplored. Testing and assessment activities take place in a social context, and this is particularly the case with task and performance-based assessment. In speaking assessment, the interlocutor has a crucial role to play. However, while the interlocutor is often a trained interviewer, this role may also be taken by another test candidate or a group of test candidates. In relation to paired and group test activities, a whole raft of variables are ready for exploration, since we can hypothesize that the socio-cultural norms of interaction contribute significantly to variability in performance. The extent to which they contribute in systematic ways to the way tasks are interpreted and undertaken is yet to be determined. Second, alternative assessment. Technological advancement will continue to extend alternative assessment approaches. The e-rater, e-portfolio, and 3D virtual assessment tasks of today are only initial examples of what technology may contribute in future to key alternatives in assessment. The roles of corpus analysis, learning analysis, and the mining of big data for assessment purposes will continue to expand. Indeed, technology will potentially revolutionize the way in which we engage in assessment. Even now, scientists at the Max Planck Institute, using the Oculus Rift headset and a room full of cameras, are able to simulate a virtual world in which a human participant wearing the wireless headset moves through physical chairs on a virtual airplane or walks through a grove of trees outside a virtual Italian villa. As such technologies develop, the potential to simulate context and collect evidence over time of language performance, expertise, and development will increase the reliability and validity of assessment. Elsewhere, neuroscientists and neurolinguists, in collaboration with language testers, are currently using functional magnetic resonance imaging, shortened as fMRI, to assess brain changes that are related to language proficiency development. As scanning technologies are refined and improved, evidence of brain changes which are related to increasing language proficiency will help us to better understand the growing cognitive changes that underlie or accompany language proficiency development. Although such approaches may be challenged as invasive, ultimately they will enhance our understanding of the cognitive changes that occur as part of second language acquisition and not only increase the potential accuracy of construct definition in language testing, but also the validity and reliability of breakthrough practices, outcomes, and their interpretation. In sum, the array of alternative assessment approaches will continue to be enhanced by technology. In all cases, however, we should be guided by the such advice of knowledge brain to bias for the best in language testing and assessment. Third, technology in language assessment. These two sets of challenges, the obvious ones pertaining to infrastructure and the more subtle conceptual issues evident to language testing researchers, combine to create a third issue for the field of applied linguistics. How can improved knowledge about the use of technology be produced and disseminated within the profession? What is the knowledge and experience that graduate students in applied linguistics should attain if they are to contribute to the next generation of computer-assisted language tests? At present, it is possible to identify some of the issues raised through the use of technology that might be covered in graduate education. If graduate students are to dig into the language testing issues, they need to be able to create an experiment with computer-based tests. Such experimentation requires authoring tools that are sufficiently easy to learn and transportable beyond graduate school. Commercial authoring tools that are widely accessible are not particularly suited to the unique demands of language assessment, such as the need for linked items, the evaluation of learners' oral and written directions, and the collection of spoken responses. As a consequence, many students studying language assessment have no experience in considering the unique issues that these computer capabilities present to language assessment. In a sense, the software tools available constrain thinking about language assessment, making progress evolutionary rather than revolutionary. More revolutionary changes will probably require graduate students educated in language testing, in addition to other areas of applied linguistics. For example, students need to be educated in corpus linguistics to conduct appropriate domain analysis as a basis for test development. Education in second language acquisition is needed too, for students to use learner cover for defining levels of linguistic competence. Education in world English is needed to approach issues of language standards. These and other aspects of applied linguistics appear to be critical to helping to increase usefulness of assessment throughout the educational process, strengthening applied linguistics understanding of language proficiency, and expand their agendas for test validation. Fourth, cognitive aspects of language assessment. As there is a growing interest in learning-oriented assessment approaches, the field of language assessment should hold an alternative view of and methodological approach to assessing test takers' cognitive potential while taking advantage of the contextual specificity. According to complex dynamic system theory, a learner is a dynamic system with many components interacting with each other. It is through the interaction of these intrapersonal variables and the influence of environmental factors that learners' minds can be better understood. Although intra-individual variability is previously considered to be a result of measurement errors indicated by noise, a dynamic system perspective sees it as a driving force of development. Future language assessment should provide the opportunity to assess, model, track, and scaffold progression as the result of such interaction. In this way, we may be able to catch a glimpse of such complex and dynamical learner cognition. We may continue to measure language ability in the standard way, but information from such measurements has few implications for both advancing theory and making positive impact on the lives of people involved. In doing so, we will continue to neglect the importance of metacognitive and motivational conditioning in learning. Emotions involved in thinking, and as a consequence of action, and the broader social context in which we are embedded. In fact, few would argue against the need to assess learner cognition in conjunction with its interaction with internal and external factors. In my view, what matters now is whether or not we are equipped with the necessary methodological innovation. I strongly support technological advances that allow us to make observations and data gathering less intrusive and less dependent on self-reported data. For example, data mining and machine learning as approaches to assessing learner cognition and growth during language learning may help us innovate current assessment approaches. Multi-channel data involving physiological, neural, and behavioral traits may provide information that can be used to complement self-reported data. Data gathering and analysis in the real time, while students perform on the task, will help assessment provide adaptive scaffolding for individual students. All of these approaches must be grounded in well-proven models of cognition, be supported by evidentiary reasoning, and be engaged in while bearing potential impacts in mind. We may continue to theorize learner cognition without practical implications, or attempt to program the mind using neural networks without theory. Neither will advance the field of language assessment nor progress. Last but not least, criteria for evaluating language quality. What has been achieved in the last decade is quite substantial. When the total speaking framework is replaced, the new volume will reflect the very significant progress that has been made in assessing the quality of spoken language. We now have considerably more options for scoring models than the simple more than, less than descriptors that characterize the rating scales in use since the Second World War. These are likely to be richer because of the advances in domain description and references. Our deeper understanding of interaction now also informs task design not only for pair and group assessment, but also for simulated conversation in a computer-mediated test environment. These developments will inform critical research in the coming years. Generally, I just talked about 5 current issues and future directions, which are task and performance-based assessment, alternative assessment, technology in language assessment, cognitive aspects of language assessment, and criteria for evaluating language quality.